Now, the Subway Final Word.
Welcome back to the Subway Final Word, everybody. The Pirates get started in spring training games this week. Trip Total Media had an article suggesting that Andrew McCutchen could end up getting $25 million a year from the Pirates at some point, although he does have a few years left on his contract. Should the Pirates look to extend McCutchen's contract sooner rather than later? And is there a cap to what you would pay him? Chris?
It's a fascinating question because he still is under the Pirates' control in a contract for 4 more seasons. Normally, you wouldn't even consider that. You have 4 more years. That's a lifetime. Anything can happen between now and then. Hey, there's no reason to believe that Andrew McCutchen is going to, let himself get fat or whatever, get out of shape. You believe he's still going to be a productive player 5 years down the road. But then the fact if you extend him, it's going to be 4 or 5 more years after that. However, it's sort of like the previous contract where they bought out a couple years of free agency for the sake of giving essentially McCutchen a raise this first couple years before his arbitration kicked in and getting that cost certainty. You'd be doing kind of the opposite in this case. You'd be giving him a raise of about $10 million over the next 3 or 4 years and then getting sort of a discount because who knows what the market will bear at the end of 2018. If it was me, I'd probably wait another year to see that because you have a much better idea what the market will be at the end of 2018 after 2015 than you do right now. But it's an interesting, fascinating question, that's for sure.
Harvard player is a little less optimistic. They won't pay him $25 to $30 million per year, which is market value. So it will never happen, I should say. John, what do you think?
I kind of agree with that, and I don't think it's either morally or ethically incumbent upon the Pirates to give him another nickel. That's all part of the way the deal works. They gave him millions and millions of dollars over the last several years because he sold them his they paid him like a free agent because they bought up some of his free agent time in advance, and that's why they did it. So I don't think they need to pay him because they feel obligated to. And the other thing is, I don't think that when you're in the situation that the Pirates are in in the financial situation they're in as a small market team, you can't afford to guarantee that much money to anybody that far down the road because you'll never win because he'll take up all your self-imposed salary cap.
Kevin, the Pirates are making more money. They have better attendance. They've been to the playoffs. Should they spend that on Mr. McCutchen right now?
Well, Andrew McCutchen has no one to blame but himself and his agent for this deal, for him to play his prime years with the Pirates for a bargain of a contract, the way this turns out. Unfortunately, the Pirates should have probably renegotiated that deal after his MVP year 2 years ago. They've allowed the market now to dictate that he'd be a $25 to $30 million player, despite being a center fielder who doesn't have the greatest power numbers as maybe compared to a Giancarlo Stanton, who's going to average, I think his contract 13 years, $325 million. What I'm adamant about is that the Pirates should pay other players to surround McCutchen with great talent while he's in their possession and while he's playing for a bargain contract.
Just keep in mind that the San Diego Padres spent a lot of money this offseason. They just signed a $1 billion TV deal for 20 years. They make $50 million a year on TV. That's why you're seeing them add players. The Pirates are still getting something like $18 million a year. Until that changes, they're just not going to spend that kind of money. People have to face it.
Well, it's not for us to face that.
Jose Tabata, they signed to a 7-year deal for $14 million. Everyone thought they overpaid at that point. It looks like a bargain. Now McCutchen looks like he might be a steal as well. But if you have to pay him down the road, we'll have to see how it all works out.
But Bill, one thing is the Pirates fans should expect the Pirates to spend the money. I don't want to hear about what kind of contracts they have. That's their problem. What the fans want. The fans are paying the top dollar for the tickets. They want to see a contender and a championship team, which this management has promised and this ownership has promised. A championship team, not a playoff team, a championship team.
We'll see if they can deliver that. Moving on to the Steelers, March 10th begins free agency, and teams are looking to free up cap space. If the Steelers keep Troy Polamalu, he counts $6 million against the cap. If you were a GM, would you cut Polamalu, ask him to take a pay cut, or keep him? Kevin, you get to start.
Well, it's kind of ironic that you have two guys, Roethlisberger and Polamalu, right around the same age, both headed to the Hall of Fame, and one guy's been a model citizen, the other hasn't, and they're about to give Roethlisberger $100 million, and they're about to cut Troy Polamalu. That's the sad state of the NFL, and that's what's going to happen. I think it's a sad thing, but that's what the Steelers are going to do.
Austin says, ask for a pay cut. If not, then cut him. Sounds harsh, but got to do what's best for the future. If it's best to keep him at all, Chris, he had no interceptions and no sacks.
The Steelers have a recent history with doing all this. They've asked players to take pay cuts. James Harrison didn't take it and was gone. Ike Taylor did take it and stayed. But let's face it, Ike Taylor probably stayed a year too long as far as the Steelers are concerned, for better or for worse, sad to say. I think that by now, it probably would have happened by now if it was going to happen. I think just the way, there was no emotion behind letting Dick LeBeau go. There shouldn't be any emotion behind letting Troy Polamalu go either.
John?
I don't think you have to do either. I think you can bring him to camp. I don't understand why it's become impossible now to cut a guy in training camp just because you let him come to camp. You tell Troy Polamalu, we're thinking about cutting you. You better show us in camp. You got a good year left in you. If you don't, you're gone. It's not that tough.
They got to sign Ben Roethlisberger first. That's why.
Yeah. Well, okay, but still. Why can't you you don't have to cut him today. Bring him to training camp and see if he still has it. If he doesn't, that's it. See you later.
Think for down the road, back to the Pens now. Pascal Dupuis wrote a passionate article about his battle with blood clots and his vow to return to the ice. But if he does, it could be dangerous. Should Pascal Dupuis return or retire? John?
Well, that's up to him, and it's a health issue, and actually it shouldn't be up to him. It should be up to the doctors, and then the Penguins should talk to the doctors. But he's 36 years old. He has a serious affliction, a serious medical problem. I think he ought to let the doctors decide. He shouldn't have anything to say about it.
The majority of our responders said he should return, including Big D, who says, love to see him come back. Crosby may be captain, but Duper is the heart and soul. They really missed him, haven't they, Kevin?
I think they have, and I think he's a great guy to have in that dressing room. And I think, his missing the game, having the passion for the game, I think there's a way for the Penguins to find room for him in their organization, perhaps on the bench or something in scouting that doesn't require him to sit in the press box. But I think for Pascal Dupuis' future and for his family, more importantly, that he should hang up the skates.
Chris?
By the way, moving stuff in that well-written article there, just sort of bypassing the middleman of us media. We probably won't have jobs anymore. Pretty soon, the athletes will just start writing their own stories. And like you said, he didn't tell the news media and that. Well, it's a pretty easy answer here. I don't think anybody, even Pascal Dupuis, talked about he went 5 games there in that article about having the blood clot still playing. I think he's going to wait before he's cleared, before he's played. You put your trust. These are well-paid people that went to school for a very long time, and they're in the medical field. If they clear him to play, he should play. If they don't clear him to play, then he shouldn't play. I don't think there's anything he's going to run out there and start playing again before he's cleared, before his body's ready to play. And if he is, then he has every right to play, and he should play.
Chris, Kevin, Steige, thank you very much. Up next, it's your chance to get the final word on anything in the world of sports. The Subway Final Word. We'll be right back.